This is the Great Basin seasonal outlook for 2026, January through April. Not much fire activity going on. One lone fire project outside of the Great Salt Lake. Otherwise, things as normal, very quiet this time of year. Looking at temperature departure from average, it has been a warm month across the entire region. Temperatures anywhere from about 6 to 12 degrees, even up to 15 degrees above normal for the region. Also drier than normal across much of Utah and parts of Nevada. Somewhat wetter than normal in the north across the central Idaho mountains into western Wyoming. Also a wet batch coming in off the southern Sierra into adjacent areas of southwestern Wyoming, I should say Nevada. Looking at the winter season so far, from October 1st through the end of December, has been wetter across parts of southern Nevada, but mostly along the California border. You go elsewhere further to the east and north, looking at an overall drier than normal signal for much of Nevada and Utah, but still some wetter than normal signals in the south. A lot of this was early in the period in October. And again, somewhat wetter than normal to somewhat just above normal across parts of Idaho and western Wyoming. Looking at the drought monitor, the drought has continued to steadily worsen across parts of eastern Nevada and much of Utah. Severe drought to pockets of extreme drought in a lot of areas, and some low-end drought conditions, moderate drought extending into parts of Idaho and Wyoming. A lot of that's been tempered with the wetness over the past couple of weeks. The drought outlook, this actually does take us not into August through October, but more into the early to middle part of the late winter and spring of 2026, and we do see that drought conditions are expected to intensify across parts of Utah, the Arizona Strip, and in parts of eastern Nevada. But drought removal likely further north. That's because there's a sharp line between continued dryness later this winter into early spring and continued wetness areas just further north. Looking at the flash drought index, the last 3 weeks, the highest category of drought across these darker red areas across southern and central regions. And this is reflected on the snowpack. Looking at snowpack, other than the Sierra, which has been getting pummeled in mid to late December, most areas significantly below normal across parts of Utah, the rest of Nevada, and near normal as you head further northwards into parts of Idaho and western Wyoming. But even some of these normals, the bottom range of the snowpack is considerably higher than normal. But where you do have snow, again, it is near normal depth. Looking at fuels, in some of those droughtish areas in the southern Ely's district, we do see that there's a drop in ERCs. They are near record level. They were near record levels recently, but recent rains have brought them back down to benign levels. Somewhat more critical, I shouldn't say critical, but near record for this time of year across southeast Utah. And that's expected to bounce around and continue for the next couple of days. But again, nothing really near critical levels per se. You can see where these points are through here. If we look at drought, weather, fuels, and snowpack, question is, are we in a La Nina or El Nino or La Nada episode? And currently, right now, we are just skirting the outer edge of a weak La Nina, and that seems to be peaking now, and the trend should be towards a normal ENSO period through the um, late winter, spring, and even a trend towards the lower end of El Nino as we get in towards the middle summer months. So it seems to be a reversal setting up across the tropical Pacific. Um, we're still in the weak La Nina now, or just marginal borderline, and that usually is seen by cooler, wetter weather in northern areas, drier and somewhat warmer to the south, and that's kind of been what we've been seeing so far the early part of this winter. So some of their outlooks from the Climate Prediction Center into the second week of January, looking at near normal to maybe slightly above normal temperatures, with an overall wetter than normal signal, maybe near normal further across western Nevada. For the month of January, warmer than normal signal expected across many areas, along with a wetter than normal signal. So, a lot of different ways to read this. Some of it might be there could be wetter than normal conditions, but snow levels could be somewhat higher than normal, so not as much snow for a lot of the mid slopes of the mountains. So, we'll see how that plays out. The seasonal outlook, February, March, and April, seems to be signaling something similar to what we're seeing now, that we're seeing warmer than normal conditions across southern areas, closer to normal further north, and again, seeing those drier conditions basically along and south of the I-80 corridor, but wetter conditions transitioning as you get into the Snake River Plain and into the central Idaho mountains and western Wyoming. We'll see how that goes. So we put all the pieces together, and really not much for us. January through April is normally a dormant period anyway. We're expecting normal, non-critical midwinter conditions. Across the rest of the country, though, things can always vary. And of course, in parts of Texas and Oklahoma, where there's a lot of dry brush around, and parts of the southeast from Florida through Georgia and the Carolinas, there is a concern for above normal fire potential in January and in February. And this extends also into the high plains of southern Colorado and parts of Kansas as well. As we go into February, similar conditions for March, and then lingering critical conditions for the southeast in April. So this could be a pretty bad fire season for areas out by Florida. Georgia will keep an eye on that, as well as parts of Texas and Oklahoma earlier on. This concludes our seasonal outlook. Next one will be issued at the end of January. Have a great day and have a great new year.